Yes, indeed. Joining us as well is a man who is no stranger to the Observer, always here to enlighten us, and he connects the dots. Please let me say a pleasant good evening to veteran journalist Ken Alley. Pleasant good evening to you, Mr. Alley.
Good evening to you, Mikey, and your many viewers.
Well, I can't say that I'm in a good mood this evening. We just had UNC Senator Wade Mark on, and the mere fact that he, disclosed to us $500 billion has been spent already for the time that this administration has been in office, and basically nothing to show for it. I mean, he spoke about the Jindal issue and what's transpiring with that, and so many things. And now the Asian company, China Harbor Engineering Company, is contracted to design and build for the Housing Development Corporation, HDC, houses in Santa Rosa, Arima. What's wrong with that entire picture? Tell us, please.
What is wrong here, Mikey, is several things. The first thing is that the company has been given this tender worth $475.8 million. The highest bid among, I think there were 9 bidders, highest. The lowest was 199 million. Of course, the government is not duty bound to take the lowest bid because there could be several reasons for that. But it's the highest bid. That's the first point to make. The second thing is this company, China Harbor, has been indicted on corruption, bribery, and other related charges by at least a dozen countries around the world. The World Bank backed this company for several years for bribery, and it is legion around the world, whether it's Sri Lanka, it's Bolivia, it is several other countries, African countries, Latin American countries, and so on. So it has a most checkered record. So for those two factors, the choice of this company is highly questionable. Now, having said that, after I wrote the article and the issue was taken up by others, the Housing Development Corporation issued a statement today, a sort of convoluted statement, but which seems to have kicked the ball down the road to the procurement regulator. And that brings up the question of the procurement regulator. You would have seen another article I wrote recently in which the procurement regulator did not deliver her report, her annual report on time, as she is duty bound to do.
Yes.
Well, again, we get action with the writing and talking and so on. After that, sometime after that, she has sent the report. We have not gotten an insight into what is in the report, but she has done that. Now, again, she is not, there's a process with respect to the procurement regulator, but again, these things can be questioned publicly. So the short version is that the AGC is not taking responsibility for it. It is the procurement regulator, which cannot be held to account, $475.8 million TNT dollars for this company with a most questionable international track record.
So where does that put us? I mean, in the midst of everything, in this serious guava season, where we're hearing the fact that there isn't anything on stream that is going to help generate revenue, we find ourselves in a situation here with China Harbor Engineering Company, and of course coming out after with Jindal. Is it that government seems to just basically want to be in bed with some of the shady elements?
Well, it does raise that question because this company has a most, to use your word, a most shady track record, a whole range of companies. And apart, I spoke about the corruption. Apart from that, its work is very shoddy in various parts of the world. In Jamaica, it was building a highway. The quality of the work was not good. In addition to the quality of the work, it was working at a very snail pace, very, very snail pace. Now, China is on a major mission of seeking to influence this part of the world for commercial and military reasons. It's building a number of ports in this part of the world. It built a huge port in Antigua, Barbuda, and so on. So it's all part of the strategic involvement by China. It is doing several things in Guyana, for example. So all of that, and one has to question whether this is because of all the ties at the highest level between our government and the Chinese government. You recall that Dr. Rowley was the first CARICOM Prime Minister to sign on to the China Road and Belt Initiative.
Right.
And an initiative which, Mikey, has led to a number of countries having to foot the bill for projects that the Chinese companies undertook. In Sri Lanka, they were building a major port, and Sri Lanka, they had economic problems. They weren't able to fund that, and the Chinese took over the port. So we in this part of the world with our vulnerable economies and so on, we are also extremely vulnerable to the Chinese presence. Like I said, they are throughout the Caribbean. They're throughout the Caribbean. They're in Trinidad strategically. They're into Guyana. And in Latin America, they're up in Jamaica and so on. So all of that is part of a larger picture that is emerging, and our authorities seem not to be conscious of it. And on top of that, giving these most lucrative contracts to suspicious companies.
Yeah, but there's also some political concerns, I know, raised by the same BRI projects in countries. This thing about a debt trap, or the retaliation and dual-use purpose of facilities. Now, at the end of it all, is it that we're going to have to borrow money to actually pay these things back?
Well, indeed, I mean, we are, of course, 8 out of the last 9 budgets were deficit budgets. The fact that the government is seeking to fast-track the revenue authority is because, as the minister himself said in an affidavit, he can't keep borrowing. Our borrowing status will go down and down. And that ties into other things I've been writing, Mikey. You may have seen an article I wrote in which they are looking, the revenue authority will be given BIR numbers to wayside vendors, including doubles vendors. So these people are going to be held accountable. You know, Mikey, I don't know if you were around or your viewers were around at the era of the George Chambers time, when he taxed anything virtually that was moving. When he wanted to leave the country, he had to get an exit tax and all that. All of these nuisance taxes which they had introduced to raise funds out of the backs of the hard-pressed people in Trinidad and Tobago. We are without an alternative source of income, and oil and gas are at an all-time low. Natural gas production is at a 20-year low. Oil production is much more than that. With that happening, no alternative source of income because the government hasn't diversified the economy. They have to try now to tax the people of Trinidad and Tobago. So you're going to see the wayside vendors now having to pay taxes, and all of that means simply more hardship on the people.
Yeah. So basically, the people of this country will have to pay for the fact of the incompetence of the administration when it comes to managing our affairs as far as the economy. You're talking about the TTRA to tax doubles vendors. So you're talking about the nutsman, the vendor, the man on the side of the road. They're going to be assessed, and of course, they'll have to pay taxes as time rolls out on this entire thing.
Yes, that's the plan, because like I said, the minister said in his affidavit, that affidavit with respect to the TTRA, the PSA has the government in court on that matter. And even though the PSA is challenging aspects of the TTRA, the minister's gone ahead and offered jobs to employees of the customs and the other divisions, the other agencies that would make up the TTRA. So he has gone ahead and done that, even though the matter is before the court. So yes, the short version is that he is trying to raise funds in any and every way in which he could. And like I say again, it reminds me, and I'm sure it reminds many of your viewers, of the era of George Chambers, when they were already taxing anything they could lay their hands on.
And what's going to happen to our international credit rating?
Indeed, well, that is a major issue here. Because we borrowed domestically, we borrowed internationally, and the experts are saying that would send down our international credit rating, and that what that means is the cost of borrowing will go up further. What that means, Mikey, is that we put in ourselves and our children and grandchildren into a debt cycle.
Yeah, but there has to be some sort of buffer zone, Mr. Ali, as far as something that we as citizens will have to try to associate ourselves with in order to get that gap, at least shield us from what intentions the government may have.
Well, the first thing is that people got to be aware of it. I don't know how many people are conscious of how bad things are. Now, the Prime Minister consumes the national narrative. He leads and he's aggressive and so on. And people tell me when they watch the news at night, he is there all the time and so on. And he rolls out a narrative that is not really correct on several things. For example, this matter with Jindal, he is suggesting that the opposition and the critics, and I have written extensively on this issue, that they are the ones who are preventing Mr. Jindal from coming here as an investor. Well, there are several things here. One, we've lost investments a long time. In 2014, we had investments with a value of 1.5 billion US dollars. In 2022, which is last year for which we have updated figures, Trinidad and Tobago had a net loss of investors of 917 million US. So instead of coming in, they're leaving. And not just in energy, Mikey. You remember Uber transport came when, because of crime and the foreign exchange problem, they went. Polo Tropical restaurant came, and they left, and ArcelorMittal left, and they were major. They paid a lot of foreign exchange. They gave us a whole lot of foreign exchange and so on. So we've been losing investments a long time. There's something the World Bank has called ease of doing business. That is how easy it is to come and set up shop and so on in this country, in any country. In this country, for business to get electricity connection takes months. It takes a long time to do bank business, to get business registered and so on. When you compare that with Jamaica, Barbados, Guyana, and the little islands and so on, each country is ahead of us. Now, the other aspect of this Jindal matter is that there are 9 companies that have applied. 9 companies. The government has set up a system through Scotiabank in Canada, which has a finance house, and they have the requisite skill and talent to evaluate each one of those companies for funding, for whether they could get the feedstock, whether they could get marketing, employees, and all of those things. Jindal didn't go through that. So Jindal didn't have to go through the procurement process at all, and they just put him at the top of the class. So he's sitting at the top of the class, didn't go through, while OWTU and all these other bidders have had to spend money to get their bids, to get a foreign partner, and so on. Now, they have paid a total of 12 million TT dollars to Scotiabank. They are paying that. It's an ongoing thing for that process. And then they put Jindal at the top of the list. And this is why they really fudged the system in favor of Jindal. You know, so a lot of these things, Mikey, are not being.
But before I close off with you, the thing about it is that you made some very valid points. I mean, again, all of this money that's being thrown around, and all of these allegations, and all of these activities that are taking place seems to only benefit a handful of individuals. I mean, just recently, yesterday, I believe, a U.S. court ruled that Google is a monopoly. And here it is, we have one company dealing with pharmaceuticals exportation in this country.
I'm glad you said that. We have monopolies in this. I'm glad you know that. There are monopolies. And Mikey, I know this is not the subject of this evening's conversation, but let me touch briefly on it. The banks are making more and more money. Republic Bank has just announced a 17% increase, Mikey, and you get 1% increase on the money you put in there. There are 65 charges. If you go take out money and you at the fast service, whatever you do, you're paying a lot of money. Alright? So they're making money on the backs of small people. Small and medium-sized businesses, people can't afford to pay their bank payments. That's why a number of these small and medium-sized businesses going belly up. They can't get foreign exchange and so on. And we have this system here where the rich are getting richer. But I'm glad you touched on that monopoly situation, because we have these monopolies here. We have monopoly on pharmaceuticals, in particular pharmaceuticals is about medication for poor and sick people.
I want to leave it right there. I want us to continue when we speak again on these monopolies and continue to connect the dots. Keep up the good writing. I'm definitely going to share it with the viewers here on The Observer, and it's always a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you for having me, Mikey, and best wishes to you.
Thanks a lot.
Evening.